Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're jumping into a topic that is quite literally changing everything about how we learn and communicate. We're talking about AI, literacy, and what it all means for the future of education. So let's just get right to it. The huge question at the very heart of this whole thing is this: what does it actually mean to read and write now in the age of AI? Because, the research is absolutely clear on one thing. This is not just about a few new cool tools. Our core definition of what it even means to be literate is being rewritten right before our very eyes. All right, so to really wrap our heads around this massive shift, we've got to start with a new foundation. We need to define what literacy even looks like in this new era. And that foundation, well, researchers are calling it artificial intelligence literacy. Now, here's what's so interesting about this definition. It's not just about, being good with computers. It's a whole set of skills, being able to critically evaluate what an AI spits out, to use it ethically, and this is the real game changer, to actually collaborate with it effectively. So let's break that down. AI literacy isn't just one thing. It's really four key parts. You've got conceptual understanding, like what even is AI, then you have the technical skills to actually use it, but just as important are critical evaluation, asking is this reliable, and a deep ethical awareness, asking is this fair? Okay, so how do you even start building skills that are this complex? Well, believe it or not, the journey begins way earlier than you might think. Let's take a look at how this is being introduced to our youngest learners. See, in primary school, we're not talking about making kids write code or learn crazy complex theories. Nope, it is all about sparking curiosity. The focus is on learning through play, using things like AI-powered robot toys that make these big ideas tangible. It's about building inquiry literacy, just getting kids to ask how and why the tech works. This is where we're seeing the first ever AI lesson plans being designed, building those foundational concepts from the ground up. And this comparison just lays out that whole journey perfectly, doesn't it? We start with a really simple question. What does it do? But as students get older, that question morphs into something way more complex. How should we use it? And that's exactly where secondary education has to step in. So, for teenagers, that big question, how should we use it? Well, that needs a much more structured answer. We have to move past just playing around with it and into real, formal frameworks that tackle both the incredible power and the potential dangers of these tools. And this is a really critical shift. It's not enough anymore to just know what AI is. Students now need to know how to use it creatively and responsibly. The goal here is to build their digital literacy and innovation skills on a solid bedrock of ethics, getting them ready for a world where these tools are, let's be honest, completely unavoidable. From there, we climb the ladder into higher education. And here, AI isn't just a subject you study. It's actually becoming a core part of the academic process itself, especially when it comes to writing. Check this out. This is a super concrete model for how this is working at the university level. Researchers have developed frameworks like this 6P pedagogy for writing. It's a whole structured process that guides students from planning and prompting all the way through to peer review and portfolio tracking. The key takeaway? This entire system is built around collaboration with AI, not being replaced by it. It teaches students to be the director of the technology, not just someone who passively clicks a button. But, and this is a huge but, this brings us to probably the single biggest challenge that pops up in all the research. For any of this to actually work, we have to prepare our teachers. There's an urgent, desperate need for good professional development, to not only teach the how-to, but to really equip educators to lead conversations about all the deep, ethical questions that these tools bring up. Okay, so we've looked at the what and the how inside the classroom. But you know what? The real impact of AI literacy explodes way beyond those school walls. So let's zoom out and look at the bigger, more critical questions this technology is forcing all of us to confront. Here's a really critical thing to understand. These tools are never neutral. Think about it. AI is trained on us, on our data, our texts, our history. So of course, it absorbs all of our world's existing biases. It can learn to amplify them, for example, by prioritizing dominant languages and ways of speaking over others. And that forces us to ask a really fundamental question, one we all need to be asking. Whose values, whose cultures, whose worldviews are being written into the very code of the AI we use every single day? And some researchers, they take this critique way, way further.
They use these incredibly powerful and, yeah, intentionally provocative phrases like anti-colonial literacies and the digital middle passage. They're drawing parallels with historical patterns of exploitation to ask a very pointed question. Who really benefits from this tech revolution? And whose data, whose invisible labor, is fueling the whole thing? This pushes a massive societal challenge right to the forefront. As we're building this AI-powered future, how do we actively, consciously work to make sure it becomes a tool for digital justice and not just a new kind of data colonialism, where the information of the many ends up benefiting only a select few?
And that's really where we have to leave it. As we wrestle with how to teach our children to understand and use artificial intelligence, maybe the most important lesson of all is the one it's teaching us. What does the rise of this technology truly reveal about our own values, our own biases, and the kind of society we've built? That's the question we are all left to answer.